You are now rocking with the Life League.
It's just junk.
Hey yo, DJ, bring that back.
Oh, Life League gonna be at the game? I gotta turn up.
And I was muted. Let me go ahead and start over. What's up, YouTube and Facebook? Welcome to Life League TV. I am your host, Jeff Tarver. And for those of you who do not know, Life League is a platform that educates, uplifts, and also exposure for youth athletes in the Georgia area. So tonight we have a great episode, man. We're talking about something that's a pressing topic right now. We're talking about 5 takeaways from the sports protests. And I think it's something that we need to discuss. We need to have some candid conversations. And I have a special guest tonight. We have Jeremy Bradshaw of Jet Training Academy. Jeremy, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people and let them know what services you provide.
Man, Coach Bradshaw, Jet Training Academy. We work with athletes of all ages, basketball, whatever, Vertimax training, shooting. That's our specialty. Just here for the kids. We offer free tutoring every Jet Training Academy.
Good deal. So make sure that you guys check out the Jet Training Academy for all of your sports training needs. Do you hear echo? You hear a little echo really?
I don't.
Okay, cool. All right. So tonight we're talking about the 5 takeaways from these pro sports protests. All right. So let's go ahead and jump right into this thing. Like I said, this is a pressing topic right now, and I think it's good to give some dialogue to it and speak to it from 2 different perspectives, one from a black male and also one from a white male. So let's jump right into this thing. Also, when you come in the room, make sure that you like the video, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Make sure that you also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at The Life League. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it, man. This is the first thing, because what you hear a lot of is, you know, you want the athlete to shut up and dribble or just play football or baseball or soccer or whatever the case may be. And a lot of people don't necessarily, number one, feel as if athletes should even speak on this topic. And also, a lot of people feel as if athletes should not even feel obligated to speak on these particular issues in society, because at the end of the day, they make a lot of money, right? So should athletes even feel obligated to risk their livelihood for social justice, man? I'm going to let you go ahead and start it off, Bradshaw.
I don't feel athletes should feel obligated, but I do feel the athletes still have to understand that they have to go back to their roots. What people don't understand, a lot of these athletes are, you know, exploited, things of that nature. So a lot of them feel the need to speak up because of their roots and where they're from and things like that. And there's a lot of pressure on their back because they are the voice of, you know, of certain people that don't have voices. So I ain't gonna say obligated, but I do feel a certain need for it. I feel like they feel that a certain need that they should do it. Am I against it? Nope, I'm not. I'm never gonna be against someone speaking truths and bringing the light to individuals that doesn't feel, you know, that light should shine, if you get what I'm saying. Like the Colin Kaepernick situation, you know, and that's a whole nother topic. But You know, athletes have always done this. It's just we didn't have social media, especially black athletes. And people forget, you know, Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, and how he was exploited and kicked out of the NBA because of his beliefs, because he didn't believe in, you know, standing for, you know, the flag, or, you know, Craig Hodges. And I can go on and on. We could talk about Muhammad Ali and things of that nature, and people like that have always done that. We just didn't have the ESPNs, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, and things like that. So this is not nothing new. It's just new to us because we don't study and we don't educate ourselves. Black athletes have been doing this. It's just we live in a society where white people feel like they can control the narrative. When you're supposed to speak, oh, you get paid millions of dollars, so your voice doesn't matter because you're still getting paid millions of dollars. It does matter because at the end of the day, if LeBron James loses everything, he still has to go back to Akron, Ohio.
Absolutely.
And so on, Chris Paul, and so on and so on. So I'm all for, you know, athletes speaking how they feel and standing up. You know, I just feel like a lot of times it's us that needs to shut up and listen. A lot of times, my mom always told me, sometimes listening is better than a response. And that's the time that we need right now. That's what we're trying to get to. We don't need to speak. We need to listen.
Absolutely, man. And I'll follow up on what you said. I think that they should feel obligated to speak. For those of them who do not speak up against social justice, I respect your decision. Not speak up, because I'll say this. I don't think a lot of athletes are educated enough in order to speak up on the issues anyway. So when I say obligated, I feel like they're obligated to use their platform in order to bring attention to certain things.
Yes.
But if some athletes, they're not versed enough to actually speak intelligently about some of the issues that are going on. But I feel as if they should, you know, everybody, it's going to take everybody, all hands on deck, in order to get us to a place in our society in which we need to be. But yeah, they do need to use their platform, and we gotta be clear about something. I posted this on Facebook the other day. I said, you know, what are you willing to sacrifice, right, for liberation or freedom? You know, is money more important to you than your children growing up in a society to where they don't necessarily have to fear, you know what I'm saying, walking down the street and being, you know, harmed by anybody, you know, let alone just law enforcement? What are you individually willing to sacrifice, right? Is it your career? You know, is it your livelihood? You know what I'm saying? Honestly, us talking on this platform tonight, we risking our livelihoods, right? Because people can look at, you know what I'm saying, you and what you're saying and say, well, I don't want to take my Bradshaw because I don't like what Bradshaw has to say about social justice issues, right? So you could possibly lose money. I could possibly lose money because my employer can say, well, I don't like what you're saying about this, that, and the third. So your services are no longer needed here. So, you know, if I can risk, you know, the little money that I make, you know, of course they should have enough money, you know, set aside to where they can at least, you know, make ends meet for a little while. So yeah, I definitely think that, you know, athletes should be or should feel at least obligated to a certain degree to use their platforms for some good. All right. We have a comment in the chat. A city and players endorsing and wearing slave labor merchandise from China is priceless. Okay, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China, Sidian? Not sure.
I think what he's saying is if they're speaking on like social injustices here, and we all know Nike has sweatshops over China where people are making, you know, a lot less money and not being paid. It's kind of being hypocritical. I think that's kind of what he's saying. I ain't saying I agree with it,
yeah,
but I understand what he's saying. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. So, City, I would like for you to elaborate. You can follow up on what you said, because what happens is we lose sight of what the issue is. And that happened with Colin Kaepernick, right? Well, he don't want to stand for the flag. He being disrespectful to the flag. They never bring up the reason why he was protesting in the first place.
Because they control the narrative. They want the narrative controlled by them.
Right. That's my whole thing. See, we want to deal with the symptoms of the problem. We never want to deal with the real
root. Yes.
Right. That's our problem.
My mama always said, she said, you want to get to the root, you want to get to the tree, you always go to the root. Always.
No doubt, man. My boy International Jug in the chat. Of course.
That's my dog right there, man. Tell him I said what's up, man.
Shout out to everybody from Lithonia. All right, let's go ahead and transition into number 2. But yeah, we have a problem with that in America. We never want to talk, and it's a certain group of people, right, who never want to talk about the issues, the real issues. We want to gloss over that part, and then we want to talk about, okay, well, he disrespecting this, or we need to stand for this. No, we need to get to the root of the problem if we really want to solve things. But that's the problem. We don't want to solve things. We want to
I'm white, but I ain't that white, bro. You know me, bro. I keep it strictly 100 at all times.
Right. And we don't speak in absolutes. It's not all. But a lot of people, we would rather, talk about what's going on and what they're doing in order to protest or boycott as opposed to why they're boycotting. And that's intentional. Let's transition into number 2. Was the protest / postponement long enough? I'm gonna frame this. I'm gonna start this one up, and I'm gonna say no. It lasted how long?
A couple
of days. So, and I don't want to take away from what they did. I think it was a good thing what they did. They brought a lot of attention to the issues that we face here in society. But as it relates to a real boycott or a protest, I think they should have held out longer, in my opinion. And I say this: nothing changed, right? The NBA, they came up with a few things that they put into place. And we'll talk about that in a second. I don't want to go into the next point, but I'll bring this up. The Montgomery bus boycott lasted 381 days. Right? These people in the South carpooled, they walked, they did whatever they needed to do because they felt as if their rights were being violated as it relates to the busing system and everything else in the South. So you made to tell me that you're gonna not play one again. I commend them for what they did. They took a stand. But when you do something of this magnitude and what we really need to, and where we need to get in society, you got to take it a step further. You got to go all the way with it. You can't just stick your toe in the water and say, okay, I jumped out there a little bit. I said Black Lives Matter. Now let's play basketball or football or baseball. No, you got to go all the way with it. Like I said before, the Montgomery bus boycott lasted 381 days, longer than an entire year. And they did not hop back on the bus until laws changed. So, I'll say this, and I'm speaking for, just for me. And I believe a lot of people would support these athletes who were to take a stand and say, I'm not going to step foot on a court or on a football field until X, Y, Z happens. And it has to be tangible. I always talk about tangible. I don't care nothing about word. I don't care about no committee, none of that. What are y'all going to do? And let's do it. But I personally will be willing to donate or put money to the side for athletes to go towards that salary, right? If you're going to, risk everything for me, I'm willing to, donate, to your livelihood. And I'm sure a lot of people will be willing to do that. A lot of fans that really support the players because they're risking it all. I would do the same thing for Kaepernick and anyone else who's lost their livelihood just because they took a stand for us. So I don't think it was long enough. I don't really think that a lot of people realize how much power they have. The NBA is global. The National Football League is global. MLS is global. The NCAA reaches people all over the world. So you talking about, messing up billions and billions of dollars. You shut the whole system down. They're going to come up with something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it was long enough. I think they should have not stepped back on the court. I think that all SEC, ACC football players should not step foot on the field until something tangible happens for Black people. What are your thoughts, man?
I agree with everything you said, but I'm gonna be devil's advocate because I don't want to just be like, hey, we both agree on everything, and it sounds kind of like cliche. So basically, I'm gonna say I can't tell you what they should do or they should have stayed because I don't know what's in their contract, first of all. Because I'm sure they had to sign new contracts going into the bubble pertaining to that. So I don't know what they signed or what deals they had. I'm sure me and you can both agree they didn't. Everything's not based off their old contracts. They had to sign something going into the bubble. All right, so I don't know that. So I can't say, yeah, they should have did this because of that. Another thing too, while they're playing, I think a lot of things are being seen just for the simple fact of what the NBA has done and put on the jerseys and put on the courts and things like that. So I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, not saying I disagree with you. A lot of times too, we fail to realize because of the NBA and what they've done, you've got other countries. This has never happened before. That you can see protests in the streets, other countries protesting for Black people in the United States of America. And it's because of the NBA and the things that they've done and the things that they put on the jerseys and the floors and stuff like that. That's never happened before. I mean, all you have to do is turn on CNN where they're talking about it, or, any news worth a dang, So I look at it like that. As far as college athletes, that's kind of hard. That's kind of hard to say that they shouldn't fulfill their scholarship because we both know how that works. In college, you're replaceable. Everybody's replaceable.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA, if LeBron James came out and said, we ain't playing, everybody in the NBA is going to, because he's not replaceable. You can't replace LeBron.
Right.
But the wide receiver at Alabama is replaceable because they just had 2 or 3 of them drafted in the first round. And that's all I'm saying. So I can't really speak on the whole college athlete aspect and what they should or shouldn't do. I can't do that. I kind of feel like with them, you're stuck in a rock and a hard place because it's like, okay, you don't want to play? Well, we're going to let you out of your scholarship and you can't come back. And then what that says to other schools is they're not going to, we know how they're going to blackball kids if they do that, especially young Black kids that already are fighting to get out of the hood anyway.
Mm.
We both know that. So
Right.
they've already been, their minds already been poisoned on what they can do and what they can get and the stipends that they're going to get. So you tell one of them to speak up, and Nick Saban, and I don't believe Nick would do this, but Nick Saban comes out and says, well, all right, we're going to release your scholarship since you don't want to play. We're going to find somebody to replace you. Then UGA's not going to touch you.
Mm.
LSU's not going to touch you. So he's going to be afforded to go, somewhere else. And we all know that most college athletes at them universities are playing to do what?
They're planning to go to the league.
To the league. And that just ended everything for him. So it's
Right.
kind of hard for me to say that. I feel like as a college athlete, I feel like they could speak up, but sitting out, they would be different. It would be a different approach.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that they would be wrong in doing that.
Right.
I'm saying they would be manipulated by the system if they did do that.
Mm.
I mean, think of it like this. Young black athletes have been used, and even young white athletes that happen to make it over these years by the NCAA by just putting their names on merchandise and never being paid for it and used. And you think they won't use them for that? Come on, man. Come on. I can't really speak on that. But the NFL, the NBA and all that, I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like the protest could have been longer, but I also feel like with the NBA playing, they can also do good because Mr. Silver, allows them to speak their voice. He doesn't hold them back. It ain't like Jerry Jones in Dallas where, you know, he,
Breaking up a little bit, Bradshaw.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I said the NBA is probably the best league that we have when it comes to, you know, social injustices and equality and speaking up.
Right.
So I feel like the platform is there whether they don't play or they do play.
I got you. I'm gonna say this. I I disagree, and this is why. And I said this earlier. What are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice a scholarship to Alabama or University of Georgia or Duke or anywhere else? Are you willing to sacrifice that? If not, then you're not serious about freedom or liberation. Right? So you had people out there willing to die over a Confederate statue. I'm willing to die over a statue. But you telling me you're not willing to risk a scholarship for freedom? What's the price of freedom at the end of the day?
But
and I understand, like, I know a lot of these kids come from backgrounds to where that they feel as if that's their only way out.
yeah,
Right?
the only means.
That's all I got.
Which is wrong.
And that, I talked about this before. That's not true. Right? And that's what we are telling these kids to make them believe that
Totally
that's
agree.
that they can get out. Here's a football scholarship. And here's another thing, Bradshaw, you need to tell me that that's a 5-star athlete at Alabama said, I'm not going to play anymore in the SEC until this, and this happens. Now, it's going to take everybody to be on board, right? It can't just be one. Like you saw that with Kaepernick. There's a blackball him. Okay, we got the next one. Everybody got to be on board. But you telling me that this young man will not get picked up by another school?
I think like this. I think we all know how the SEC schools are ran, and we also know who runs them.
Right.
And the worst thing that you can do, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, so I hope people don't take this the wrong way. The worst thing you can do to white people in power is have an educated mind to where you can speak for yourself and be black at that. Do you understand where I'm coming from? The worst, these conversations that me and you are having right now, the world does not want us to have these conversations. Right. But these are the conversations that need to be had so we can change things. So people can start educating themselves on numbers. And when people mention black on black crime, oh my God, I'm so tired of having that conversation.
That's the number one thing.
Yes, like or when people say white people are killed higher than black people by cops, and you have to break down numbers and tell them, look, this is what I study. And you know I know my stuff, man, because we talked about it millions of times. And I'm just tired of having these conversations. But getting back to the athlete, I think that a lot of times too, we get misled. Okay, so let's say the athlete says, hey, I want out of my scholarship. And he doesn't get picked up, and he's forced to go back to a certain place. Mm-hmm. Or he just goes to school or whatever. But let's say this. Let's say he does stay in scholarship, makes it to the NFL, donates millions of dollars to change. That's all I'm saying. It can be used one way, but it can also be used the other way. I'm not saying I disagree with you, Jeff, because wholeheartedly, you know I agree with you. I just don't want to be the type we're having a conversation and say, I agree with everything that you're saying. Right, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, and that's why I got you on, because we're not afraid to disagree with one another. It wouldn't really be, I guess, a meaningful dialogue if we both agreed on everything. But yeah, I'll say this, and we'll go ahead and transition to the next point. What's the price of freedom? And I'm asking anybody who's watching this video, who will watch it later, what are you willing to sacrifice for your freedom? If you're not willing to give your life for your children, then you're not serious about liberation.
Yeah, you're not.
You're not. You just want to make your money. And that's the problem with a lot of us. Most of us just want to make our money and just stay out of the way.
If
right?
it ain't under our nose, it doesn't bother us.
Absolutely. We want to crust the bread in the corner to sleep in. And we, as long as me and my family straight, then, y'all going on with that protest and stuff because I'm living good over here. So we're talking about the 5 takeaways from the pro sports protests. We talked about number one, are athletes obligated to even feel like they should speak up and risk their livelihood for social justice? And two, what's the protest and postponement long enough? Let's go ahead and transition to number 3. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Number 3. Are you satisfied with the outcome? Now, I'm gonna let you go first. We know the NBA, they came up with a couple of different things that they said that they was gonna do in order to get the players back on the court. They consulted with Obama and everything else. Are you satisfied with what came out of the protest?
Are we gonna start having these conversations with every person in America? Are cops gonna start being held accountable for their actions? Am I gonna have to tell my daughter about putting her hands on the steering wheel when she's pulled over just because she's mixed? No, I'm not satisfied with the outcomes because all this is still going on. And I would be crazy to say it. Do I like what LeBron James said or Dwayne Wade or whoever else, Chris Paul? I love what Chris Paul does. I tell people all the time, Chris Paul has been speaking up. Like, supporting HBCUs. He's been doing things like that. If you've ever lived in North Carolina, you know that. But nothing's going to satisfy me until there's a legit change. When I mean by legit, like until we can sit down and have these conversations and it not be always black and white. It's like, okay, I'm listening. I'm literally listening. We shouldn't have to protest. We shouldn't have. There's a certain thing just called right and wrong. My mom always told, and I hate to harp on this, but she always told me there's a couple jobs in this world that you can't get wrong, and being a cop is one of them. Yeah. You can't make mistakes doing that. But the thing is people say, well, you got great cops. Yeah, I know great black people too. So the only way I'm ever going to be satisfied with the outcome is when change literally happens. We got to stop thinking that these things in America ain't going on, and the only time it's brought to the forefront is when an athlete speaks it. That's not true. We speak it daily. People just don't listen because it's not right up under their rug. It's not on their front porch, so they don't want to listen. I mean, just this week alone, last week, if you follow me on Facebook, I had a white guy call my kids mutts because I didn't agree with him. And I was telling him there are certain aspects of life that I don't agree with. And we were just speaking in general. He called my kids mutts and he called my sister an in-lover. If he feels that way, imagine how many other people feel that way. And that's the thing that bothers me. Nothing's going to change. Nothing. The outcomes are not going to change. I don't care who speaks up as an athlete, nothing, until white people admit that there's a problem. And when we can admit that there's a problem and we can stop changing the narrative from black on black crime or this or that, then it's not going to change. And that's because we are the problem. And the only way you can change a problem is when you are ready to admit to it. And that's just fact. So no, I'm not satisfied with the outcome. I don't think anything came of it. I think it brought light to some eyes. But I think if anything, that's what it was. It's just, oh, okay, there's just black athletes who are millionaires. They're going to go back to their homes and they're just going to speak up. I think that's probably what most people think. When they're done, it'll be over. We won't hear nothing else from them. Let's just shut them up. Pay them some more money. Or something like that. It's, that's I just think that's what a lot of people think. So no, I'm not, as a whole, no. The outcome, I'm not satisfied with it.
I agree with you on that. This is what the NBA said that they were going to do, right? They said that they were going to establish a social justice coalition. I don't know how many more coalitions we need. How many coalitions we
There's a
are?
million of them.
Right. Like we keep trying to put band-aids on cancer.
It's
No.
not gonna, bro. We just got a video not 2 months ago of George Floyd with a cop with his knee on his neck. What more do you need to say that there's change that's needed?
Bradshaw,
What more do you need when there's a guy? Let me get through. When there's a guy, because I'm so tired of having these conversations. When there's a guy, okay, let's say the guy over there and had the knife and they shot him 7 times in the back. He was walking away from you. You had tasers. You had 3 big police officers. You mean to tell me you couldn't take him down? What more video do you need? And then you got the nerve to try to use self-defense. But not a day later, there's an 18-year-old guy with an assault rifle in the same city, an AR-15, walking around next to the police, shooting people. Why didn't he have to use self-defense? It's kind of hard for me to grasp that in my heart when Jeff, and I speak, and me and you talked about this. You know how I feel about this. When I've been pulled over in a car with my friends because they were black, and I've been let go, and I watched my friends be detained. This has happened. Or riding down the road, but because of who I hung with, people automatically assume this, and this, or I was just a certain way because I played ball or I hung around black people or things like that. They automatically define me as a dope dealer or something like that and be pulled over for it. It's crazy. So I don't want to hear it. Like, it's hard for me to listen to people talk that have never that have never been in the situations that I've been in, and I'm trying to tell you. Or I got so many stories. Like, Kennedy, man, oh Lord, man, we got robbed in Atlanta at a house. Like, we lived in a neighborhood where it was all white. And the cop came in very nice and left very mean because my family was mixed and made comments about my family. This happened here in Georgia. So if you think the things that I've dealt with, it's not out there and people just want to ignore it, they're crazy. So I'm never going to be okay with the outcome until there's a legit change that can happen. When I deal with 95% of the kids that I deal with are young black males, and I'm tired of having the same conversations with them. There's nothing LeBron James, nothing they can say or do that's going to change anything. They can bring light to it, but until Trump, until the Senate, until people like that have a heart-to-heart with themselves and decide to listen to people like me and you and the things that need to be changed, or they have conversations and dialogue with black men and women that can tell them what's going on in America and listen instead of just retaliating or telling them they wrong or bringing up black on black crime, it's never going to change because we as white people feel like that we always feel the need to be right. No, right now is the time for us to feel the need to listen. Shut up and listen. It's been going on too long, man. You're talking, I can bring up so much, man. And I know I'm way off topic, but this stuff that stays on my brain every day, and it's crazy. And the world needs to hear it. I hate, black on black crime. Let's talk. All right, let's talk. Let's talk statistics. Why do you think black on black crime happens? Or why is it? It's a word. It's a thing created by white people so they can feel comfortable about Black Lives Matter. Let's just be honest. I've never heard anybody say white on white crime.
You won't.
I wouldn't go to China and say, Chinese on Chinese crime. That's
right.
Crazy. Of course, if black people are predicated to black neighborhoods and that's how they're raised. And you know, healthcare is way down, and the education system is built against them, and they can't get the right things and the necessities to live. Because let's say that over 100 years, because they're oppressed, you know, systematic racism. I can bring up all this. Of course, black on black neighbor crime is gonna be bigger in black neighborhoods. Look what they're up against. That's common sense. But you don't want to hear that.
But you know what, Bradshaw? They already know that. It's just like you said, it's just a way to deflect from having to actually do something about it. And people know, you know, I teach criminal justice. That's what criminology is. It's the study of why people do certain things or who is doing certain things. And crime is intra-racial, meaning that you commit crime to the people who live around you, right? So,
but we know that,
right? And we
to
know
the naked eye, to the people that
that
didn't go to school for this, because we've already taught this. Me and you got the same degree and from different schools, but we have the same degree. So we know the statistics. We talked about this millions of times. But to them, it's just a way, like you said, to deflect of what's really the problem. And what I've learned in America is we, as my Caucasian brethren, they don't want to face the problem. They want black people to shut up because they understand if we continue to give these people voices, they're going to have more power. And that's the problem. That's the issue. We should want black people and black men and black women to have power. We should want black kids and little black kids to succumb to families of power. That's what we should want, so we could build a wealthier nation, so we could build more, so we could get along more, we can buy more land, we could create more opportunities. But we don't think like that. We think, oh, if he does this, Jeff Tarver, he's got a degree, then he's a threat to me because he's black and I'm white. And that ain't how it should work.
Yeah. So we talked about what the NBA did, what they came up with in order to, I guess, get the players back on the floor. So they said they're going to create a social justice coalition, and we're going to sit around and talk some more about what's going on in society. Like we've been talking about it for the last 500 years. All right, so that's number one. Number two, they said that they're going to establish voting centers in all of these areas where they have arenas in the NBA. Okay.
My question to you is this.
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell hasn't that already been established? If we're in year whatever and racism is supposed to be dying down and systematic racism is supposed to be dying down, then why in the hell hasn't that already been established? That tells me right there that you, as the NBA, the NFL, and whoever else, acknowledge that there still is systematic racism and that there's a problem. So why in the world hasn't that in year 2020 happened 100 years ago? That's my answer. That is my answer. That is my question. That's the first thing that I would say to Mr. Adam Silver, who I have a lot of respect for. Why should we have to do that?
You know what, Brad? I'm gonna say this while we're talking about voting. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't vote. I think you should, express your right to vote. But this is what these players should have done. They should have came up with a list of demands, and they should not have come up with it themselves because, like I said, a lot of them are not educated in order to know what to ask or what to demand in the first place. So you need to consult with some people who've already done the work to say, okay, in order for this thing to actually turn around, right, we need to be doing this, and this. All right, okay, we'll take that. Appreciate you, sir, who's already done the research. All right, I've already consulted with the best people, the most knowledgeable people on this topic, and this is what we want. Okay, since we're gonna set up all these voting centers, okay, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, These are our list of demands, right? What are you going to do about it?
What changes are you going to make?
Right.
And the first people, in all honesty, and out, not just the voting section, but the first people that should be acknowledged in that would be like the NAACP, would be people that have direct knowledge of what needs to be done. You can't go to white government officials and expect them to acknowledge what's wrong in the black communities when it comes to voting. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
It doesn't. It's crazy because I listened so much as a kid when my parents would talk politics, and my mom would say this all the time. How can you expect somebody to run a country that never wiped their own ass? How can they take care of people that's never took care of themselves? They've always been taken care of by somebody else. So of course things are not going to be right. So how can I, as the NBA, saying I'm going to do this, this, and this, but yet the people I'm going to contact are going to be the very people that created the system?
Absolutely. So, like I said, you should already have your demand ready, right? It's an election year. You take your demands, and not just to presidential candidates, but congressional candidates as well. Say, okay, sir, you said you want to, be in Washington, D.C. Here's our list of demands. Where do you stand on these items? This before we vote, because a lot of people say, well, we're going to vote and then we're going to hold them accountable. No, you hold them accountable before you go to the ballot box, because they're telling you exactly what they're going to do. All right. So I think we try to put the cart before the horse a lot of times, and
Can we just
spinning wheels, and we ain't getting nothing accomplished.
Can we just get a break from presidents for a while? Can we take like an 8-year vacation? Let's just do that. Can we just take an 8-year vacation? Man, listen. we have Obama. I respect Obama. We have Trump. I don't respect Trump. Man, what would be so fun? Man, we need to go get George Lopez or somebody like that to be the president.
Man.
Something like that. You know what I mean?
This is the thing about me.
I'm exhausted when it comes to politics and change. But I know at the same time that I can't stop talking about it, because the very time that I let up is going to be the time that one of those kids that I deal with is going to stop listening, and something's going to happen to them. And then that's not. So I know I'm just being facetious and joking about the president, but you're right. What they should have done is a list of demands to say, hey, if you want our vote, this is what needs to be done. And we know in retrospect that Donald Trump is not going to keep his word on anything. So
let me go ahead and read some of these comments real quick. Mr. Obsidian is back. He said the Democratic Slavery Party, KKK, Jim Crow, lynching, FDR segregation, FDR Japanese internment camps, Margaret Sanger eugenics, poll taxes, and voting against women's rights continue their terror. Read what Trump has done for us, and our arrogance is only eclipsed by your arrogance. Mr. Obsidian is WHAT. Read what Trump has done for us. But I'll say this while we're talking about it. I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican either. I'm for whoever's going to give me what I want. And that's the problem with a lot of us. We get so caught up in Democrats and Republicans. And at the end of the day, are you going to give me what I'm demanding? I don't care if it's Donald Trump. If Donald Trump is going to give me what I want, I will vote for Donald Trump. You get caught up in, he's this or she's that, and he did this or he did that. I don't have an allegiance to anybody, because nobody has an allegiance to us. So if you're going to give me what I want, I will vote for you. We too emotional. We get caught up in nothingness. Before we move on, we got to keep it moving because we don't want the show to be too long. But before we transition to the next point, we always, and I'm speaking on behalf of Black people right now. we get caught up in where we gotta go and vote, and if you don't vote, you don't have no right to say nothing, and you gotta go vote, 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 vote. And there's a myth that we haven't already been voting. We've been voting. You saw a decline in 2016 amongst Black voters, but that was the first year of a decline in 20 years. So we have been voting, and I want to say to all those people who kind of try to shame people and say that, okay, if you don't do this or you don't do that, you don't have what fruit has it bear? Show me the results. Because as far as I'm concerned, we're at the bottom of everything. So I know it doesn't happen overnight, but you have to demand. I'm not saying that people should not vote. Yes, you should vote, but you should demand something for your votes. And our city is talking about 360 million to HBCUs. That's not any money, Mr. Obsidian. Let's transition into number 4. So I think we've already talked about this at length. We're talking about the people who actually have been criticizing the people who have been protesting. And we have a situation where people feel like if you make money, then you shouldn't speak up against nothing. So just take your money and go over there in the corner and be quiet at the end of the day. You want to say a couple of things to the people who feel as if, athletes should not even be saying anything in the first place?
Nah, we've already discussed this. I feel like if an athlete feels the need to speak up, then that's their right to do so. I feel like that anybody that says that an athlete shouldn't talk doesn't really understand what our government and what that flag that they so-called keep claiming stands for. And let's just be honest. Like, you can't tell me this is the land of the free, but it's only free when it's an occurrence with what you want or when it's what you want. No, you can't sit here and tell me, in Charlottesville, Virginia, the KKK can have a quiet protest, but it's wrong for Colin Kaepernick to take a knee.
Oh, boy.
So, Jeff, you've known me for a long time. I'm with the shit. You know that. So I'm with it. I know that I'm going to take backlash from some of my, some people. But at the end of the day, I really don't care about likes and dislikes. And in all honesty, when it comes to Jet Training Academy, I'm in it for the kids.
Yeah.
I'm not in it for, for you to like me or anything like that. It's just real. So you can't sit here and tell me athletes should just shut up and dribble and in the same breath say, well, okay, this was okay. No, it doesn't work like that. So you can't have one without the other. You're either all the way in American or you're all the way out American. It's one or the other.
Mr. Obsidian is back. He said the First Step Act also included significant reforms to address recidivism as it's helping prisons improve the Mr. Obsidian, all Black people are not criminals, believe it or not. So, and that's what
the media has you to portray. They want you to think that 1 out of every 3 or 4 youth Black males are going to end up in prison. That's why, I'm not saying that he's wrong, but that's why the government puts the money into those prisons, because they know it's a reoccurring domino effect. They know that that's how they make money. Let's just be honest. Call a spade sometimes.
Right.
What are you going to do? Okay, well, if you got this many people coming in and out of prisons, well, you got to take care of it because it's making them money. Like, come on, man. Everything's about green when it comes to the government.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna give you one more, Mr. Obsidian, and I'm gonna let you stop trolling us. All right. Opportunity zones, real quick. Be clear. You can't invest in something if you don't have money. All right. Black people do not have money. I can't invest in an opportunity zone with my good looks, Mr. Obsidian. You have to repair the harm that was done to Black people before you can say that we live in a just society. So no, I don't want to. Yeah, you might have a few athletes and entertainers that can invest some money in an opportunity zone, but for the majority of Black people who don't have any wealth, it does no good, and most of those people get gentrified out of the neighborhood anyway. All right. So have a good night.
To me, it just sounds like he came on here to try to
Yeah,
justify voting for Trump.
Yeah, he just came over here to troll a little bit.
Yeah, they probably would, man. I hear it daily.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on though, Mr. Obsidian. Even though we pretty much debunked all of your talking points. But all right, let's go ahead and transition to number 5, man. With all this being said, you know, where do we go from here? We have a situation where you know, you have athletes that are using their platforms. You know, the camel's back has been broken over and over and over again. You had the whole George Floyd situation where the entire country was literally in flames, not just in America, but abroad as well. You have athletes that are opting out. You had several SEC athletes within the past couple of days that said, I'm not going to play this season. And what do all the so-called fans come and do now? They start trolling the kids and saying, well, you know, we ain't want you no way. And, you know, kick them off the team and this, that, and the third. So, you know, to all of my athletes, you have to understand, you know, you're in a situation where people only think you're good for crashing your body into one another and scoring points and this, that, and the third. Moving forward, where do we go from here? It's a situation where either we're going to do something about it or we're not. Right? America has a cancer that we are not willing to do anything about, and you're going to continue to see uprisings in the street because we will not address racism and white supremacy in this country. We continue to say we're going to form coalitions on social justice, and we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about that. But until we actually do anything tangible, nothing is going to change. And we know that. We're just spinning wheels, we're just talking, and nothing is getting done. I'll say this. I am willing to do whatever it takes so that my children do not have to live in the same situation that I have come up in, that my mother and father grew up in, that their father and mother grew up in, and we can keep going on down the line. Whatever it takes. If I got to lose my job and go wash cars or cut grass or go work at Home Depot, this is so easy. Yeah, unfortunately, I know I'm one of the few, right? Some of us are willing to do that in order to say, hey, at the end of the day, I do something because I want my children to live in a society that's better than the one that we grew up in. So, of course, I know, you know, I'll be trolled for, you know, actually trying to stand up for justice of what we claim that this country is all about in the first place. But it is what it is. Where should we go from here, bro?
To be honest, the only way we keep going from here is keep having these conversations. Sooner or later, somebody's going to hear it. We can't get quiet. We got to keep our foot on the gas. We just got to keep pushing the envelope. We got to keep holding people accountable for their actions. Going on Facebook and looking at these racist businesses and keep sharing them and holding people accountable. That's the only way things is going to change is if, you know, we keep educating ourselves first and foremost on how to do things instead of listening to what the media may or may not say or basing off our opinions on, well, Fox said this or CNN said this or that said that. You know, we got to keep having these conversations within ourselves, within our families, within our groups. And that's how change occurs. Everything starts within self. You know, we can't keep depending on President Trump, the Senate, the police, and all that. No, we got to depend on ourselves. And we got to start holding ourselves accountable and start having these conversations with us. And as white people, we have to start listening more. And we got to cry out more. You know, we got to ask for more. You know, we got to listen and say, you know, hey, you know, I didn't know you felt like this, but I'm going to stand with you regardless of your skin color. And maybe it's a little easier for me to say that because that's just how I was raised. You know, anybody that knows my mom, you know, they knew that Lynn Kennedy did not play the radio when it came to stuff like that. She just was not that person. I just was never raised in a house where I looked at somebody. Oh, I hate when people say, "Oh, you don't see the color of the skin," but I never just looked at somebody and say, "Oh, he's a black dude," like that, or he's automatically gonna do this, this, or this. Like a lot of people stereotype black people. I was just never raised like that. I was always raised to love people for the color of their skin, but also, who they are. And I just don't think that enough people do that. I think we have compassion, and we choose to have compassion and empathy when it's only when we want to do it. So, like, we want to have compassion and empathy when it's a 5-year-old white kid getting killed because his dad was a meth dealer. But we don't want to have compassion and empathy when it's a guy in the street and the police have his knee on his neck, and we want to say, hey, he shouldn't have committed a crime. Well, I'm going to tell you something, people. I'm going to tell you something. If that was the case, I would have been dead a long time ago. I've sped. I've talked back to the police. I've ran. I've done things that I'm not proud of. And I'm pretty sure 99.95% of people on this earth have broken the law. I'm pretty sure that. So imagine the next time something happens, it's your kid out there and they speed. What if it's your kid? What if it's this? And we have to look at it like these are real issues. I shouldn't have to have discussions with kids about acting a certain way or dressing a certain way in certain areas because they might be in a white neighborhood, or you have to talk a certain way, or you have to do certain things. And until these things are addressed by us, it's not going to change. But the only way that we're going to change or anything's going to come of this is if the conversation keeps happening. We got to keep having the conversation. And that's just real, man.
I'm gonna say this, bro. Like, I feel you, but I think we didn't talk too much.
Yeah, I agree.
We didn't have this We've been having this conversation for generations, bro, and it ain't changed. Like, it's time to stop talking. It's time to
start doing it. I agree. Taking your money back. Put your money into black businesses, small businesses at that. Like, bro, you know me and my shoes. You know my shoe closet. I got well over 200 some pair of Jordans. I don't buy from big companies. Shout out to Stusa. Shout out to Fresh. Shout out to DJ over in Alabama, the guys that I shot with. All these are small black businesses. Just being real. So that's how, one thing about it, you start taking your money and putting it back into the community first. Instead of going to McDonald's, go to my guy out there in Bon Air at Levi's Grill. He just opened up a barbecue spot. You ain't got to go to Sonny's. Go out to Levi's. Small black business.
Earlier, man. I didn't realize they closed at 4:00, so I missed them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go tomorrow though. But I agree with you, man. And I'm gonna say this before we get off the line. It needs to be said. I respect LeBron for everything that he's doing. He's becoming more aware. But I disagree with him on a couple of things. And this is something that he said recently. Terrell Owens and Robert Ory, and I've heard other people saying this as well, and they keep saying that they're afraid. As a black man, they're afraid. Like, now is not the time. You have a lot of young people that are following you. They're listening to you. So I'm not saying that it's not okay to be afraid, right? I'm not saying that because there's a lot going on. But when you get in front of a camera and you have millions of people that are following you, now is not the time to be talking about you're afraid, because that's what the system is trying to do anyway. It's trying to intimidate you. But when we're in a war right now. Let's just be honest. There's warfare going on right now, and it's a battle of good and evil. Now is not the time to be afraid. We should not be instilling our children that they need to be afraid. I just can't agree with them on that. At the end of the day, we have to understand where we are in society. And this is what it's going to take in order for us to get to where we need to go. We need to demand specific things. And like I said, we have enough coalitions already. We don't need any more symbolism. We need two things. And I'm very specific when I say these two things. Number one, Black people who are descendants of slaves here in America, they need reparation. They need to be financially compensated for the free labor that was taken from them and build the country off of it. We'll start there. Let's cut the check first. All right. And then we'll work on everything else. And we get into, I never benefited. Yes, you did benefit from it, because most of the wealth in society is generational wealth. It's passed down from generation. You benefited from it to this day. So number one, the only thing we need to be having a coalition about is how much money that y'all gonna cut every single person. That's the only thing we need to be talking about right now. And number two, you have to break down the entire system. And this permeates all areas of human activity, right? We're talking about education, law, criminal justice, the economy. And you have to hold people accountable who break those laws, right? We already have laws on the book. They're just not being enforced. So once you start putting people in jail and holding them accountable for breaking the law, then you'll start to see things change. We got people talking about highlights. We're not talking about highlights right now. We're talking about more important than highlights right now. We're not talking about, putting out highlight videos right now. This is more important. They'll come out when they come out. So at the end of the day, we need those two things. We need reparations. We need to replace the entire system of racism with the system of justice. Any last thoughts, man? Where can the people find you at, Bradshaw?
112 Constitution Drive, man. Warner Robins, Georgia. Facebook, Jet Training Academy. Instagram, Jet Training Academy. 478-334-1211.
Good deal. Make sure that you also like the video, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And one last thing, man, we're about to start something new with Life League. We want to grow the platform. We want to be able to cover more games. We have people that always say, can you come to our game? Can you film this game? We want to be able to do more. But in order to do that, of course, you got to have resources. So we're asking everybody who supports Life League to join our Patreon page. And you can find that at patreon.com/Life League. We're only asking for $3 per month. That's a penny per day. So with your subscription, you're going to get early access to all highlight videos. You get to see the highlights that everyone else does. You'll also be able to vote on what games we actually go and film. And one last thing, you can get 20% off of all of your individual highlights. So if you wanted to do you an individual highlight reel, we'll do that at 20% off. So we've been doing it for a while. Little to no cost at all to the people. And we just need everybody to support us as we want to grow our platform. So make sure that you go to patreon.com/Life League and go ahead and subscribe to what we're trying to do, man. $3 a month. All right. Other than that, make sure that you tune in next week. We have Coach Landis McCoy, who is a former college basketball coach. He does a lot of consulting right now. So we're going to be talking about the 5 ways that you can go ahead and get your recruitment started. All right. Again, we appreciate Bradshaw for coming on the platform, man. As always, having these tough conversations that need to be had. Without further ado, y'all have a good night, man, and we'll see you guys next week. All right?
All right.
Peace.
You are now rocking with the Life League.
It's just Jock.